All right, thank you for joining us. We've been looking at the lingering Asuu strike and the fact that the federal government registered two breakaway factions, talking about the Congress of Nigerian University Academics and the Nigerian Association of Medical and Dental Academics as well. And right now we'll be focusing on CONUA, which is the Congress of Nigerian University Academics. And we have joining us via Zoom the National Legal Advisor of CONUA, Dr. Misbau Alamu Lateef. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Can you hear me?
Good morning. I can hear you.
Right. Now, perhaps you talk to us how does the recognition of CONUA by the federal government advance the interest of university lecturers?
Right. Thank you so much. And it is pleasing to be on your TV morning show program. Before I answer your question, permit me to quickly correct what has become a pervasive error in the media regarding the registered name of CONUA. The registered name is Congress of University Academics, as opposed to the, reference to the union as Congress of Nigerian University Academics. So it is important to stress that the word Nigeria is not there. And of course, because this is a trade union registered under the laws of Nigeria, it is implied that it is a Nigerian trade union of teachers. Now, coming back to your question, how does the registration of CONUA address, the developmental issue in tertiary education in Nigeria, if I can rephrase in that way? Over the past decade, we have had, protracted, I would say, disruption in our academic activity, particularly at the tertiary institutions. And the reason for this have been various. They have included, I would say, first and foremost, failure of government to fund education properly. And also, there has also been issue of, indefinite strike actions, from the trade union that comprises not only the academics, but also other variants of public employees. So this has been the issue for the past decades. And then there has also been the issue of the crisis. This has created the quality of education in our society, because there is a direct link between stable academic calendar and quality of the programs and even the graduates. So when you have perennial breakages, if you like, or break in academic calendar, it impacts on quality, it disrupts lives and all of that. So as a result of this challenge, and given other challenges, there are lecturers or teachers who have come to reason that perhaps there is a better way to handle this perennial disagreement between governments and their employees at the federal university in particular. And we thought that we could bring a better or an alternative, perspective to addressing the challenges in our academic system, particularly the perennial face-off between governments, one government after the other. So basically, what CONUA seeks to do differently, therefore, is to bring to the table a different approach, a paradigm shift, if you like, to negotiating with government.
What is this different approach that you are bringing to the table if you are saying that strike is not the way to go, and seeing also that your presence is just recorded in one university as it is being reported, OAU, so to speak? How do you intend to get the buying of other lecturers into your association such that it will drive perhaps the new approach that you're bringing to the table?
Okay, before I address the new approach, let me quickly correct your point that the presence of CONUA is only on OAU. That is not correct. As I speak to you now, we have presence in not less than 20 universities. And since the registration of CONUA 2 days ago, there have been other campuses that have signified interest in joining CONUA. And you will agree with me that there is normally a time to grow, a time to build membership, and a time for development. CONUA has just been registered. There have been lecturers or teachers who all the years have waited for this opportunity of an alternative, to dispute, I would say, a resolution in our tertiary institution. Now, the different approach we bring to the table is simple. We call it constructive engagement. And what is constructive engagement? We seek to engage with all stakeholders without necessarily shutting down the system. We have seen that constant shutting down of the system have created more problem than solving any problem. So therefore, we will continue to engage, we will continue to discuss. And when I say stakeholders, I mean the National Assembly, for example, not only the Ministry of Labor and Employment, not only the employees, so all these stakeholders and the National University Commission, for example, and all of them. So we seek to engage all stakeholders in addressing the challenges of funding, challenges of revitalization in the university system, and all of that. And we believe that negotiation can never be enough. So there's no point why we cannot continue to discuss and negotiate while we continue to work. And the simple example I can, bring to justify this is we have been on strike for 8 months. On the part of CONUA, I would say a strike that was forced on our members. Now, for the past 8 months, what exactly has been achieved? Nothing. If the strike is called off today, nothing again will have been achieved, other than maybe signing some agreement. So why do we have to shut down the system for several weeks and for several months just to sign an agreement? And an agreement that may not actually...
So yes,
Hello?
Go ahead.
So why should we have to shut down the system just to sign an agreement? And like I said, if the strike is called off today, nothing will have achieved other than signing another agreement. So that agreement could have been negotiated, the discussion could have been sustained, could have been continued while we continue to work. There is no perfect work environment or workplace environment anywhere in the world. This is where the issue of dispute between labor and the employee and the employer is something that is never ending. It is something that you continue to debate, something you continue to discuss. So you can never have a one-off solution at any point in time. The wages will never be enough. The employer will never pay enough. So you continue to negotiate, you continue to discuss. But when you bring down the system, you shut down the system in a bid to, according to you, solve a problem. You create more problem. And that is exactly what CONUA seek to change. So we do not support the idea of indefinite or what some people call total strike. Not that we do not recognize strike as a legal tool, in industrial relation. You can't take that away. But it is not really about whether you go on strike or not. But what use do you put the strike to? Do you go on strike to, from the system? Do you go on strike constructively in such a way that the system is protected? So these are the issues, and this is the kind of paradigm shift that we think to bring. We believe in, for example, a place of time and pace in development. Things or change, they take processes and they take time. They don't have to be sudden. None of the problem, for example, is something that we can eat from the shelf.
All right, Dr. Lateef. Dr. Lateef, let me come to you this way. The point there is, we all know, or Nigerians have an experience, or labor unions generally have an experience with past administration, the attitude of politicians when it comes to honoring agreements or honoring the request for improvement in systems, in public systems, whether health, education, housing, infrastructure, and all of that. Now you're talking about negotiation. I wonder how negotiation is going to get those things done when it looks like if you don't go extreme, you can't get things from government. Is that the only instrument that CONUA is coming on board with when it comes to the instrument of engagement with government, especially when you have demands and they are not being met? Is that what it is?
Well, it is true that government over the years have not been maybe cooperating or listening enough. And people have said the only language that government understand is to go on strike. But the question you ask yourself is this. Now, if you have consistently gone on strike and then you have achieved little or nothing, or you have achieved not much, or you have even succeeded in causing more disruptions, then do you continue to do the same thing when eventually, after your strike may have been concluded, you will still have to go to the same round table? So what I'm saying is that you cannot sufficiently discuss. So you continue to discuss until you are able to achieve a resolution or an agreement. By the way, when we say agreements or resolutions, you see, when parties go to the table with a mindset that you are negotiating with your enemy, or with a mindset of it is either our way or no way, or it is either take it or leave it, there is hardly any possibility that a resolution will be achieved. But when you go to a table with an open-minded, approach, where parties are willing to give and take, so you will realize that you tend to achieve more results than shutting down the system, particularly in the manner that will put our youth, the future of this country, into jeopardy. For 8 years, we have rendered this youth helpless. We have rendered them redundant. Many have gone into vices. We have recorded death and all of that. I personally know at least 5 students who have lost scholarship opportunity because of the disruption in the academic system. So the question again is that for the past 8 months, what exactly have you achieved? Not one single brick has been added to any university structure. Not one book has been added to any library. Not one bucket or bowl of chemical has been added to any laboratory. So some of these things, they are things that will or may be achieved without necessarily shutting down the system. And I'm not saying CONUA exists basically because of the idea of preventing shutting down the system. We exist also particularly because we think things can be done better than the way Asuu has handled it. And more importantly, under Section 40 of the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria, there is what we call freedom of association. So Asuu has become, if you ask me, an hegemony that is so monotonous. And there are many lecturers or teachers in our universities who do not necessarily share the ideology or modus of Asuu. So those people also have the right to associate under our law. And that is exactly what has given birth to CONUA. People want to associate based on interest. They want to associate based on how they think things can be handled and not necessarily being ordered, by a monotonous or one behemoth which, seek to control everybody willy-nilly. As I speak to you now, for example, the university was shut down, not necessarily because CONUA members are not ready to work, but because there is a perception outside that all lecturers are not ready to teach. That is not correct. That is not the case. So if you now have an alternative union where people who seek to pursue their own demand in a better or much more robust way can assemble and do it, then the better for the system, the better for this government, the better for the other unions, because we will therefore constitute checks and balances on one another, as the case may be.
Please, can you take us through how CONUA came to be and your interaction with the government? Did it just happen? Take us through the process. And the part 2 of my question is, how are you dealing with the insinuation that you guys are traitors?
You see, thank you, Sam, for that beautiful question. And it is very important because I've read in the media and I've seen people spoke, they call us all sorts of names, just like you have mentioned now, they call us traitors and betrayers. Those people, they have simply, I would say, exposed their hypocrisy, ignorance, and maybe sometimes envy. CONUA actually started over 4 years ago. What you see today, in a manner of speech, is a long walk to freedom. A long walk to freedom in the sense that we have been on this journey for the past 4 years, and I've been personally involved. So I speak from personal experience. We've had series of meetings at the Ministry of Labor and Employment in Abuja, where we interrogate or where we interface with government officials. So CONUA actually started, by applying under the Trade Union Act, which empowers, group of employees who may desire to come together and then form a trade union to pursue their common interests. So then we approached the Ministry of Labor and Productivity and Employment sometime in 2018. And between that time and 2 or 3 days ago, when the certificate was issued, it has been a very long battle. In fact, there were times we considered suing the ministry when we thought they were not going to register us. There was a time they invited us where we had to literally defend the rationale for registering CONUA. We had to justify to them why we are different from Asuu, or why Asuu modus of operandi does not align with our interests. So these are the things we have gone through. So what happened 2 days ago was not just an happenstance. It was a long process that has taken over 4 years. And I remember again, there was a time to tell you that the ministry didn't just act, I would say, arbitrarily. There was a time in the process where the ministry had to write the Minister of Justice for legal opinion as part of their due process. That also took some, bureaucratic time. And when the report came, as we later became aware of, it was positive. The Ministry of Justice advised the Labor Ministry. So it is unfair, and I would say reckless, for anyone to actually attribute the registration of CONUA to politics or any other thing. This is clearly an exercise of a legal right, which the minister has exercised and which members of CONUA as Nigerian citizens have enjoyed. So it is reckless, it is laughable for anyone to think otherwise. CONUA did not just happen. It is a long struggle and a tortuous one for that matter.
So how do you intend to hit the ground running? And now that schools are still on strike, are your lecturers going to return to the classrooms? How do you intend to do this?
You see, CONUA lecturers or lecturers who belong to CONUA, they have never been on strike. They have never been part of this strike. And they have made that consistently clear. What has happened is that because of the perception that Asuu represent all teachers, the government or university authorities, they shut down the university. And the clamor of CONUA has been that, look, we are not on strike. We are ready to teach. Open the university. And I can tell you with all sense of responsibility that there are quite many teachers who do not belong to Asuu. And there are those who do not also belong to CONUA. So really, it is not the case that Asuu actually represent all lecturers in Nigerian university. What Asuu has enjoyed so far, and which is now resisting, is this hegemony of, I would say, monotony, which they seek to continue. And some of us have said, look, we cannot continue to do things the old way, with certain ideological presets, and then we expect to achieve a different result. So we can do things better and differently. So what we are saying is that let the university gate be flung open. And I can tell you that there are lecturers who are willing to teach.
How will it be flung open? That's the question. Who will fling it open? And
it is the responsibility of the Vice Chancellor as a council of the university may direct, and their supervising authority, the NUC, the Federal Ministry of Education or Labor can also, make that move. But you see, we are just employees, members of CONUA.
All right. The point there is, like you said, CONUA is not on strike, yet they can't teach. If that is the situation, then what is the relevance of CONUA if they can't rally the universities to open on their own? Dr. Lateef, are you there?
I'm there. Can you hear me?
Very good. I can hear you now. So I'm asking, okay, what would be the relevance of CONUA if they are not on strike, yet they can't teach because they don't have what it takes to rally the universities to open?
Okay, I've spoken to that earlier when I said the gates of the university were actually shut against CONUA members because of the perception that all lecturers were on strike. So when you talk about mobilization, therefore, let the gate be flung open first. Once the university are open, I can tell you, like I said earlier, there are teachers who are willing to restore to classes. So it is not the duty of CONUA to open the university. If the Vice Chancellor decide today to do that, or the NUC direct the university to do that, I can assure you, and like I mentioned earlier, since the issuance of the certificate of CONUA, there have been many, campuses, that have signified interest in coming on board. You see, what people have waited for all this while is an opportunity to have a platform recognized by law. Because if you don't have a recognized or registered trade union, then the approach or the idea of a collective bargaining would not be possible. Now that CONUA is registered and according to law, and if you allow me to just quickly speak to what some people have said about illegality, I think that is also another laughable and I would say reckless, statement to make by anyone, with any idea of law. There is nothing under the laws of Nigeria, whether the Constitution or the Trade Union Act, which forbid the registration of multiple trade union. At any rate, the responsibility to do that is for the registrar of trade union under the Minister of Labour and Employment. And what the law says, particularly if you allow me, under Section 3 of the Trade Union Act, is that if the trade union registrar or registrar of trade union is satisfied that a union that has applied to be registered, is not sufficiently, I would say, represented by an extant union, then the registrar may register. So we've had instances where the registrar declined registration and people went to court. And the court said, well, it is for the registrar to determine whether the new union is not represented by an extant union. We've also had instances where people went to court. They challenged the registrar and the court said, the registrar actually registered the union and they challenged that. And the court said, well, the registrar has exercised, his discretion as it deemed fit. So the point is that to register a new union is not something that an extant union would decree to the regulator, which is the registrar of trade union, or to the ministry. No, an extant union will ordinarily be jealous. They will be envious. They will not like competition. They will not like alternatives. So it is not for them to decree who is registered or which is not registered. It is a matter of law. And that discretion lies with the minister and the registrar of trade union who act under the authority of the minister. So it is not correct to say CONUA is illegal or something. That is reckless and laughable.
Now, with the demands that Asuu is making, are you going to put forward a different demand before the federal government? Because one way or the other, some of the demands made by Asuu affects some of the lecturers under your association. What is the plan to addressing the issues? Or have you been paid in the past 8 months?
We have not been paid in the past 8 months, and that is another most unfortunate aspect of it, because our members have not been paid, not because they refuse to work. They have not been paid because the laws of their workplace were shot against them. So they are not on strike. They have not been on strike. Now, regarding the other aspect of your question, sorry, can you remind me of that again?
I'm asking, what are you going to put forward before the federal government with regards to issues? Yes.
You see, and I want to make this very clear, the issue about CONUA really is not that we don't agree, that government has failed, and not only this present government, even the previous government, they have failed to fund education sufficiently. So we do not have disagreement with the rot in the system. We believe that these rot are there. We believe that this rot should be, corrected or redeemed as the case may be. However, the challenge is that we do not share any ideology or any modules that will compound the problem than solving the problem. So, of course, we will also request for better wages. We will request for better work environments and all of that. These are continuous, like I said earlier, industrial environment issues that will continue to rear their head. They are never ending. Employee will always have issues, and legitimately so. Employer will also have their excuses, and maybe not legitimately. But the point is, we will also demand for better pay. We will also demand for a better and conducive work environment. We don't have disagreement with those issues, but we will not demand for those things by shutting down the system. We will not demand for those things by pacifying, or with the mindset that we are dealing with an enemy, and then because we are dealing with that enemy, it is either we crush the enemy or we crush the system. That is what we are saying. So we have different approach, and because our ideology is different.
All right. Dr. Lateef, one of the contentions here between ASU and federal government is the platform, the payment platform, the UTAS and IPPS. Would you confirm whether all CONUA members are on the IPPS platform or willing to be on the IPPS platform? Can you exercise that for us?
Okay, you see, from the onset, CONUA members have willingly enrolled on IPs, and I personally, with all modesty, was one of the people who actually, went forward to enroll in my school based on directive of CONUA. And our point is simple. You see, you will not see example anywhere in the world where employee dictate to their employer the mode of payment or the payroll system, if you like. What right the employee have is to insist on being paid adequately or sufficiently, as the case may be. So it does not really bother CONUA whether the government decide to pay in cash, they pay by check or whatever. What we are saying is this: we recognize the challenges with IPs. In fact, IPs has in a way reduced wages of lecturers, no doubt. And government has put forward their own argument, which we don't agree with. But we are saying we will insist that IPs or whatever platform of government should be fine-tuned to accommodate the peculiarity of university teachers. So instead of fighting and insisting that your employer must pay you by a particular platform that you dictate, we said no. We are okay with whatever platform government has, provided the peculiarities to us are incorporated in that government platform. At any rate, it is not the platform that determine what, it is not the platform, whether IPs or UTAS or whatever, that determine what is paid. It is the input. So it is not about the software or how it is paid. It is what is paid. So for us, really, we are fully enrolled on IPs, and CONUA has never really had issue with IPs beyond the challenges with IPs. Challenges that has, in a way, I would say, compromise the pace of lecturers. And we have consistently, argue or discuss with government to make sure that they correct those errors. So that's the stand of CONUA.
All right, and it's on that note we'll wrap up this conversation, but we must thank you, National Legal Advisor of CONUA, Dr. Misbau Alamu Lateef. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
My pleasure being on your show. Thank you.
Right.
Welcome.